We can do better. I know it. I remember when our kids were little and we'd have those times where nobody was getting along. You people with families know those times. We all have families. You're just not getting along. We'd call an EFM, an emergency family meeting. And we'd sit together and we'd have a talking stick. And we'd listen and we'd learn. And by the end of our meeting, we'd be back on track. Well, I think right now, this beautiful world in which we live, this beautiful country in which we live, we need an emergency family meeting. But since right now, the only work we can really do is on ourselves in the first place, I want us all to recognize and know, just as this raw material that you were talking about, Griselda, that beautiful raw material is this infinite possibility that surrounds all of us everywhere, all the time, every single moment. There's infinite possibility. It's little energy capsules of goodness, or possibilities of goodness that we get to use. When Ernest Holmes said there's a power for good in the universe greater than we are, and we can use it, that's what he's talking about. It's this energy that's all around us, but this energy, this infinite energy that is not yet formed, that is the raw material Griselda was talking about for us to use, needs our minds and our hearts as propellers to take this infinite stuff of life and bring it into form. There are no limits on this power for good. Now, this is available for all of us, but God doesn't have a blueprint of our life and says, okay, here's this infinite power for good, or this infinite possibility, and here's how you're going to use it. We've been given the free choice, the free will, to use it at our own discretion. We have been given the freedom to have full reign of our creative imagination. And you think of little children, how they love to create. And you think of your own heart, we all create in different ways, and how it takes us from one realm of being to another realm completely. And that's the possibility that resides within us now, this infinite possibility to do something better. Now, Jean Houston was my teacher for many years, back when I first started in ministry, and I'd go to her mystery schools for years and years and meet my daughter there, and it was great. So when I thought about There Are No Limits, I thought, Jean Houston wrote a book called The Possible Human. So I looked in that book, and I came across a quote. Now, it's by someone that I don't know. So you people, you scholars, or people that study things a little in different realms will probably might know who this is anyway. I'll tell you who he is in a minute. But I love this beautiful quote, and it came from her book, The Possible Human. And she actually, Jean Houston, of course, is a renowned spiritual leader, but she was one of the first people in the human potential movement. So here's the quote. Nature attains perfection, but man never does. There's a perfect ant, a perfect bee, but man is perpetually unfinished. He is both an unfinished animal and an unfinished person. It is this incurable unfinishedness which sets man apart from other living things. For in the attempts to find himself or finish himself, man is the perpetual creator. That's our gift. Because remember last week when I talked about this ever-expanding upward spiral of evolution that we're on. So we're not finished. Isn't that fantastic? We're not meant to be perfect in our human form because we're ever expanding and creating. And he goes on, moreover, the incurable unfinishedness keeps man perpetually immature, perpetually capable of learning and growing. So when I say we can do better, we can do better because we're on this path of always having more we can learn, bigger way we can grow. Now this was a quote from Eric Hoffer. And Eric Hoffer, I looked at him because I don't like to quote people that I don't know, a little bit about their background. I haven't read his works. But Eric Hoffer was born in 1898 in New York City. And he was known as the American longshoreman and a philosopher. And his works, his books on life, power, and social order brought him notoriety. Now, if you listen to his childhood, he had a very difficult childhood. He was born into hardship. He didn't have a privileged life. He was born into hardship. Actually, it said he had no formal schooling at all. And at age 7, he had a very difficult fall, which left him pretty much blind until he was 15. And during that time, his mom passed away. At 15, he gained his sight back, and he became a voracious reader. And he read and read and read. Then at 20, his dad died. Penniless, Eric Hoffer traveled to California, where he worked for the next 23 years as an immigrant farm laborer and a manual laborer. But he never lost his love for reading. And the only thing he'd carry from job to job, the only thing, was his books. And he kept reading and eventually writing. And then in 1951, when he was 53 years old, his first book, The True Believer, was published. And this book was about the mass movement in America to challenge the status quo, the mass movements that happened to challenge the status quo. Well, what's beautiful about this, it's such a rarity that someone without really a formal education would become a philosopher and a renowned writer. His work was both praised by scholars and lay people, that they really loved his work, and he wrote other things too. And then in 1982, he was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor a person can get. Does that talk about infinite possibility in someone's life? How you can use what you have and make a difference in the world by doing what you love. I thought that was such a beautiful story. And when it said challenging the status quo, I thought, my gosh, we need to challenge the status quo of our own life. How many of us get stuck in these ruts of fear or inadequacy or whatever it is? We get stuck just doing the same old thing instead of tapping into something bigger. So we've got to challenge that status quo and start looking at the perceptions about how we feel about ourselves. Do we feel helpless? Do we feel lost? Do we feel inadequate? We need to, I don't know what's going on with my microphone, it's doing something funny. But we need to start looking at what's going on. What are we doing? And there's two Yiddish terms. There's this spectrum of consciousness, and we're moving towards higher consciousness over here. So we're awakened, and we're connected, and we're one, and we get all that. But there's a spectrum of consciousness, and these two Yiddish archetypes, I think, are a good way to see the opposite ends of the spectrum. The first one is the Nebish. And the Nebish is the archetype of someone who is an artist of low practice. Inadequate, withdrawn, insecure, timid, ineffective. Now, if you were going to take on the stature of a Nebish right now, you'd kind of slouch in your seat, slump your shoulders, tilt your chin down, and have a glazed look in your eyes. Do you know that feeling? I mean, that's in all of us. We have a piece of that in all of us. But then, if we travel over to the other end of the spectrum, there's the Mensch. And the Mensch, oh my gosh, the Mensch celebrates life, loves to learn, loves to laugh, loves to listen, loves to cry, or doesn't love to cry, but knows how to cry. A person of honor, integrity, and fully participating in life. Actually, that's the piece of us that is our higher self. That's what we strive for. That's where we want to be. So if we look at the status quo of our life, it's not about punishing ourselves. It's about having a little emergency meeting with ourselves. Uh-oh, I need to grow, I need to become, I need to... whatever you think you see in the world, like kindness and love and abundance and generosity and all these things, it's not something out there. We have it in us now. We couldn't recognize it if we don't have it. So it's about learning how to become even more. I'd like to do a little practice right now to expand our Menschness, maybe. Kirk, could you give me a little Pachelbel canon in D? Thank you. I'd like you just in this moment to put your feet on the ground. And just for a minute, breathe in. Just breathe and become fully present where you are. And let's just in this moment, because we can, let go of the tension, the negative intentions that we might be holding on to make space within ourselves right now to be better and better and better. And to take this moment to feel just more alive in the moment, to feel the energy of life, to feel more energized, filled with spirit, right here, right now. To just breathe in and feel that beauty is all around us. And as we recognize this beauty, this innate understanding for what is good and right and true, we feel as we align, our senses become more acute and our brain expanded, our good friend, our brain, functioning well in this moment, that we can heal. We can heal ourselves with our words, our touch. We can heal with the light that within us that can be expanded and grown. And not only can we heal ourselves, but as we allow these words of gratitude and appreciation and abundance and generosity to fill us and expand us, this creative energy just to become who we are, we realize the same light, these same words, the same touch can heal others. And when we are in this expanded place, we understand that life is good. Life is beautiful. We are one. We have arrived at our higher place. We know where it is. We can feel it. We just say thank you, God, for this understanding, this awareness of what's already inside of us right now. How blessed we are. And just keeping that energy alive, I just invite you to open your eyes. Just breathe in and know that the prayer that you wanted to know, to give today to our prayer wall, that it's already been given because you've opened up to a greater possibility. You know, the divine mind has a solution for every problem. It doesn't look at life and go, oh, nah, can't do that one, it's too difficult, or oh, don't want to touch that one, it's too easy. Remember what Jesus said. With God, with man, things are impossible. But with God, nothing is impossible. All things are possible. So when we open to that place within us that knows better, knows more, we can be that expression of something more right here and right now. Rainier Maria Rilke said, "Be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart." Be patient. Be patient with that. Try to love the questions. Try to love the questions. You know, in this time when we don't have answers to a lot of things, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, right? A lot of uncertainty we don't know the answer to. We'd love to know the answer right now. Well, we have to just be okay with what's unresolved in our hearts and try to love the questions. But I think we need better questions. I think you and I need to be asking better questions. In the classic book, The Little Prince, when Saint Exupéry meets his new friend, the Little Prince, he wants to talk to him about grown-ups. What are grown-ups all about, you know? They ask the most silly questions. All they know, grown-ups just love figures. So when you tell your parents you have a new friend, instead of saying, oh, what does his voice sound like? Or, Oh, does he love to catch butterflies? Or what games does he love to play? They say, how old is he? Does he have any brothers? How much money do his parents make? And then they think they know your friend by the figures. But we know better. We know better. We need to ask bigger questions, more open-ended questions, more questions that expand our heart and our mind for ourselves, instead of trying to stick everything into an answer of yes, no, right, wrong, here, there, but do something much more expansive. It's all possible within us right here and right now. I know that. So this great adventure we're on is certainly about, remember what we just tapped into, that spark inside of us, that DNA, the divine nature activated within us. It's already alive. It's already a spark. It's already awake. But some of us are asleep to it. It's not asleep. So that, ask yourself, how fully aware are you of your spiritual vitality that's inside of you? Because that's the great adventure for us, to learn how to experiment with this energy we've been given. We get to experiment with it and see what we can do with it. See what we can create and what we can make. What we can do. When I said I think we can do better, I know we can look at the status quo of our own lives and have a mass movement of consciousness to know better about ourselves, for ourselves, something more. But I also know that we have to do something more than that. When Gandhi said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world," he didn't mean just want peace for yourself, love for yourself, caring for yourself. He meant that change to want it for everyone. There's a quote by Ernest Holmes that I read that I've never read before. It's in Your Spiritual Power, and that's a collection of different essays, different writings of Ernest Holmes, and I'm not sure which one it was in. I didn't write that down. You know, first of all, Jean Houston says, the greatest of human potential is the potential of each one of us to empower and acknowledge each other. That's the greatest of our human potential. We activate it in ourselves so we feel good about who we are, but then we can share it with others. But we look at what's going on in the world today, and there is no one finger to point anything at. This has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries. We heard 30 years ago, John Denver was singing about it, and however many years ago, Eric Hoffer was writing about it, and thousands of years ago, Jesus talked about it. But we have to trust that we are co-creators with Spirit, that we do our part and God does its part. But we don't keep it to ourselves, we share it. So this is what Ernest Holmes said. If the majority of people in the world, that includes us, were honest-minded, we would not have dishonesty. We will have what we call corruption and fraud in public places until the minds of the majority of people are honest. What this means is, I will not take advantage of you, and you will not take advantage of me. This doesn't belong to someone. It belongs to all of us. So when we look at the world today and want it to change, it starts within us, how we treat ourselves and how we treat each other. We ask, when we do, we have are on a spiral. Remember, there's this great, we're all evolving in different degrees at different rates. So it's not about being upset with ourselves, but wanting to grow and become. And asking, is what I want something I want for someone else too? Am I willing to share? Am I asking this for the greater good or just for myself? We want to expand and see the good for all. So right here, as we activated all of this within us, I'm just going to ask you to join me in a prayer, keeping in the heart, right at the front of your heart, what you came in with today, your prayer for faith, for understanding, for healing, for abundance, for acceptance, for gratitude, whatever it is, for knowing something's okay, being okay with it, greater understanding. Let us just know that in this moment we stand in the energy of infinite possibility. That infinite possibility which we call God and goodness is available right here for us in this moment and in every moment. And I recognize and know that as we let go of the negative intentions and we let go of the worry and fear and doubt, we can be open to something greater, that we get filled with faith and understanding that there's something greater going on right here in this moment, and we can be a part of it as we open ourselves up, as we lighten up, as we listen and laugh and learn and love. We can be that change we are seeking. That change is already in us. It simply needs to be activated and grown, that we can share it and be it and know it and have it right here, right now. As we let go of any old sad stories that keep us stuck in a sad small life, we open to a bigger story, and we see the children of the world right now. They want to live, and so do we. And we open ourselves to that vibrancy of life and know that I am here for a reason. I am here to live, to be alive, to share, to grow, to love, to be the light that this world needs. How good it is to be alive. I say thank you, God, for the possibilities of this moment as I release my prayer to this infinite mind, this infinite law that only knows to say, yes, it is done. We see that now. It feels so good. With an attitude of gratitude, I just let that be. I trust the process. Say, thank you, God. And we seal that together by saying, and so it is. Thank you for being part of that possibility. Together, we are making a change. And so it is.